Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the DLF Trade Show and the DLF YouTube channel. Russ and Addison are here to keep going, keep talking trades, keep using the DLF Trade Finder and Analyzer to look at real-life trades about stuff we want to talk about and hopefully help you keep doing what you're doing, but just a little better, because we want you to do better. We want you to be better. We want you to feel better. We just want to talk about Addison's new setup and how nice it is.
Yeah, I guess this is the debut of the new setup on this channel. I debuted it on the 4for4 channel or I guess the video dropped today, Wednesday, when we're recording. So
wow, so
it debuted on 4for4.
Didn't even save it for.
Technically, it debuted on Dynasty Islands, Rich Cooling's YouTube channel first, because I did
he's a DLF writer though, so that's fine.
Yes, he is. Yeah, so but he has his own YouTube channel as well,
yes, which is fantastic. By the way,
on a couple days ago. So.
Who is the picture behind your head? The
Arian Foster.
Yeah, it is. Okay, I can see that now that you say it. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, but let's get going. So, yesterday we talked about quarterbacks, and then we're like, all right, well, let's keep it easy. Let's go running backs. Let's go wide receivers. Well, affordable. And then we're like, wait, we already did that Mixon and Derrick Henry show. We already did that Amari Cooper, Devontae Adams show. Yeah, I guess let's talk about tight ends then, because we could always talk about tight ends because it's such a weird market where it's a combination of, is it worth it? Is there a premium? How much is the premium? Do you have to start two? And if you do, should you leave that league?
Stop.
So this is always very interesting to me. And especially it's really funny because again, as always, I don't look at the entire show sheet. I just look at the first player we talk about, which is not the one person. Addison goes, what sort of some tight ends you love? And I literally just write Evan Engram, always and forever. That's all I put in there. Evan Engram, always and forever. Mm-hmm. So honestly, I don't know if we're talking about him, but first we're going to start with Kyle Pitts, who is a wonderful conversation topic because he is it, right? He is the cause of our mistrust in tight ends in totality at this point. The prospect to, actual production, the whole, he's good, the team is bad, but wait, now he's got a quarterback, now he's got an actual offensive coordinator and all this stuff. Is it going to be a thing? So his price is so interesting to me because usually at this point, if you roster Kyle Pitts, it's because you're already a believer in Kyle Pitts. So you're not really getting what feels like that real price to go and trade for him because you're trading with someone who is already like, well, he's going to do good now. So I'm not going to sell him cheaper for when he does good now. Right. So I'm very much looking forward to this. Do you have any feelings on Kyle Pitts?
So the video that dropped today as we're recording on 4for4 was a tight end video in a redraft scope. And I talked about Kyle Pitts I think this is the Kyle Pitts breakout year. I'm fully bought in. Everything stars have aligned. He's 2 years removed from the MCL injury that he had in 2022. Kirk Cousins is in. We have a McVay style offense from Zach Robinson. It's just and he's still last year too, even though it was a down year, statistically for him coming off of the MCL injury, and he hasn't had a year that's matched the rookie season that he had. He's still analytically, he's among tight ends, he's first in ADOT, second in yards per reception, third in air yards market share, all of those analytical stuff. He's an elite tight end. He just he needs everything to come together in a perfect season. And I'm hoping I think that this is finally the year with Cousins and a better offense and fully 100% healthy that I'm bought in.
I know I feel like it was a while ago at this point, a couple of weeks, maybe 2 months ago, where we saw that video of Kirk Cousins throwing the ball. Is he starting the season? Is that for real? Do we know that for sure? That's the better.
I think so. I've been seeing training camp news saying that Cousins is dealing, and he's dealing a lot to Kyle Pitts. So
I might go.
I saw a Pitts video of him catching the ball in the back of the end zone on a really acrobatic catch.
Nice.
So training camp news is always fun to overreact.
Love
to,
it.
but.
Best shape of his life. Okay, so I might go make some Kyle Pitts offers before this comes out. All right, but let's get to the trade so we can see if I am going to go do that. Oh man, but you got some big boys in here, so it's going to be a little. All right, so let's go. Kyle Pitts, 12-team Superflex. Kyle Pitts in a 25-second for Rome Odunze. Kyle Pitts at 281, the 25-second at 89 for a total of 369.9, so 370. Rome Odunze, 408.5 by himself. This was always a very interesting conversation to me because it's, during rookie drafts, when you're trying to figure out where you put Kyle Pitts, it's pretty much came down to, do you value Pitts over Bowers? And if you were a believer, it kind of felt like you felt like they were even. Like if you were a Kyle Pitts believer, let me say. Because fantastic prospects. Again, there is proof-ish out there that Kyle Pitts is very good, and even in this league. It just needs some pieces still need to come together that don't really seem to be his fault, and it seems like those pieces are there. So if you're telling me that Kyle Pitts kind of equals Brock Bowers, and Brock Bowers is usually right after Rome Odunze, especially if it's not a tight end premium league after. If it is a premium, and especially in the trade addicts leagues, Bowers usually went before Odunze. All that to be said, I think that makes me not agree with the 280.6 to 408.5 different, like that 120 point difference, 128 point difference.
Yeah,
like that feels 30, like too much.
Yeah.
Which kind of puts me, especially if there is any sort of tight end premium, like I think I take Kyle Pitts in the second because Pitts feels safer to me anyway, especially in a onesie position than Odunze does. Odunze can be great. He absolutely can be. But he's on a team that at least has 1 year of Keenan Allen, just re-upped DJ Moore. So, like, he's not going to be the guy. Like, he's not going to be a target hog because there's too many good players, other receivers on his team. I think I take Pitts here, and I don't think it's that difficult. Like, for me personally, because I'm not like a Rome Odunze guy, I think I take Pitts here. But if you're like a Rome Odunze guy, I understand just holding on to him. But I think this is just Pitts for me.
I want the Kyle Pitts side. I mean, I agree with you. I found that the 280 value on Pitts in the analyzer is like mad low. But like I looked up like Superflex July ADP. The order goes Andrews, Bowers, Kelsey, Pitts. So Pitts is a tight end 7 in July Superflex ADP.
Whoa, wait,
quarterback ADP.
Did you like? That's not the top.
No. That's
just
4,
making
5, 6,
sure.
7.
Like, did Andrews do something that moved him up?
No,
and then did Laporta shoot somebody where he?
Laporta, McBride, Kincaid, and then Andrews, Bowers, Kelsey, Pitts are your 4 through 7.
All right, but that's not the point.
Meanwhile, in one quarterback ADP, so to show a little,
I love how it's different.
changes.
And like, what do you do?
Again, same top 3: Laporta, McBride, Kincaid, Andrews, Bowers, Pitts, Kelsey. So Pitts is the tight end 6, and he's only a couple spots like overall behind Brock Bowers. So that shows you that it really is like Bowers and Pitts is a conversation, and Bowers and Odunze has been a massive conversation in rookie drafts since the NFL draft. So I agree. I would take Pitts over Bowers, and I would take Pitts over Rome Odunze. So you're kind of getting a free second round pick here. So I don't like the analyzer just feels really off on this one.
Yeah, it is a little Pitts. It's showing the mass worry on Kyle Pitts. Like, I think that's what it is. Like, it is a little realistic. I get it because of we are Pitts people.
A ton of people have gotten burned. A ton of people.
And
multiple years of burn. Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to the next one, which is that's interesting. All right, Drake London and Kyle Pitts on one side of a trade for Malik Neighbors in a 25-second. Drake London, 516. Kyle Pitts, 281 for a total of 797. Malik Neighbors, 530. The 25-second, 89 for a total of 619. This feels like the London and Pitts side without even thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is either really overvaluing Malik Neighbors or someone's terrified of that Atlanta pass catcher group. Okay, so at least listed on the trade analyzer, the ADPs of London and Malik Neighbors, 35.75 and 27.75. So they're less than a round apart. That's what, 8 picks?
Mm-hmm.
And Kyle Pitts being at 280 and a 25-second being at 89. Like, this almost feels, this is a free Kyle Pitts. This is Pitts for a second. This is, even in no premium, this is so very wrong. Like, this is so easily London and Pitts to me. And I love me some Neighbors, but still, like, this is not right.
Yeah. I mean, like, I feel like a lot has to go wrong for both London and Pitts to not do anything. Like, I can see a world where maybe both of them aren't superstars and don't have massive breakouts with Kirk Cousins.
Maybe
but
they
if you
cap
have
each
both
other
of them,
because they're both good.
Or maybe just one. Yeah, one of them is excellent. I was trying to think of like a tight end wide receiver combo, but I can't really think of one. But so the odds are that you get at least one superstar out of these two guys potentially with Kirk Cousins there now. Yeah, I threw this trade in here just because I saw it on the Trade Finder and I was like, this feels kind of like insane. As another example to show that Kyle Pitts in some leagues, I'm not going to say most leagues, but in some leagues just kind of feels like the managers that have him have gotten burned. And maybe he's gone. Maybe he's like a very like a very highly traded player in a lot of leagues just because a lot of teams are like, oh, this is the year. And then, nope, that doesn't happen. So then they got burned. So then they want to trade him. And it's like, oh, this is the year. So it's happened enough that Pitts could have kind of been swapped around multiple times to where maybe the guy who has him now doesn't have much allegiance to him and is willing to trade him low. And you get Kyle Pitts for essentially a second in this trade, like you said.
Let's move on to the next one because it's at least more of a conversation, especially with what you said with the new ADP. Kyle Pitts for Travis Kelce and Aaron Jones. Kyle Pitts 280.6, Travis Kelce 260, Aaron Jones 89 for a total of 349. I agree. Pitts and Kelce are the toss-up. It's one of those things where if I want to win now, I'm going to take the safety of Kelce, in which case free Aaron Jones. But if like this year ain't my year, but it might even just be next year, I'll take Pitts and I'll give Aaron Jones to go get him.
I love this trade so much. I can't, like, honestly, I can't explain it in enough words how much I love this trade, just because like Travis Kelce is fantastic and is going to be fantastic until the day that he decides not to do that anymore. And I love Aaron Jones, but this is just such a perfect way that I think even if you are contending, and I understand, like, if you really want the safety of Travis Kelce, and of course you love Travis Kelce as well.
And I'm terrified of risk when I'm actually competing. So give me Travis Kelce. But no, absolutely, you're right. Yeah.
But this move has a chance to, like, Kyle Pitts could realistically outscore Travis Kelce this year. I don't think it would be all that shocking if he did.
Yeah, it's a distinct possibility. Yeah.
And then you're buying back 10, 11 years of age. And the only tax that you had to pay to do that is a 29-year-old Aaron Jones who, yes, I like, but we've seen him struggle with injuries and what's he going to do in a new offense? Is he even still going to be as...
That's what he's going to do.
Hopefully.
Sorry, I have
the new offense isn't as good. Rookie quarterback. It's, if the tax that I have to pay to move off of a descending asset in Travis Kelce for a potentially skyrocketing asset in Kyle Pitts is just Aaron Jones, then I'm willing to make this move. I love this for like 98% of teams out there. Honestly, maybe even 100%. 99.
Let's see who the next player is. Hey, Evan Engram. Nice. So I love me some Evan Engram. That is no secret to anybody. He has been a tight end 6, then the tight end 4, and there's no reason for that to change. I love me some Brian Thomas Jr., but even if he is good, Calvin Ridley's gone. So like they didn't add a new pass catcher, they just sort of replaced one. And I mean, fingers crossed Christian Kirk stays healthy, but Zay Jones is also gone, and Zay Jones was like the linchpin of that offense apparently. So like I'm not worried about Evan Engram, only 29, by the way, which is not old for a tight end. So you have a couple of years of still being very good. And I still love me some Trevor Lawrence, so I believe he's good. I believe that offense is going to be good. I'm in. Do you have any strong or at least different opinions on Evan Engram?
No, I really love Evan Engram. The only thing that I feel like I've noticed over the past few months is that Evan Engram has been so heavily talked about as like a not like a sleeper tight end, but like if you
That
miss out on the
value.
top guys, grab Evan Engram, you know, to where I think that has elevated his price. Like he's the tight end 9 in ADP.
The rough part about doing as many shows and podcasts as I do is that everyone in my leagues knows who I like.
Mm-hmm.
I make it a little easy at times. So I don't usually get a fair price on those guys, which means I sometimes have to pay a little more for Evan Engram. But there's still times I got him for like 2 seconds at the beginning, you know, in like March or April. Like, so that was a little while ago before everyone else apparently started talking about him, which took them so long. But I haven't seen anything crazy for Engram.
I've seen firsts before. And I don't think I included any of them that were just like Engram for first, but I have seen firsts and I've seen them pop up more post NFL draft, you know, back then when we were talking about when Engram was like the tight end 13 in Dynasty ADP. And we're like, what the heck are we doing? Now he's tight end 9, you know, so it imbues less confidence if you're paying more for a guy like that.
All right, let's go to the trades. 12-team Superflex. Oh, Evan Engram for Christian Kirk. Evan Engram 104, Christian Kirk 158. Disrespect on Evan Engram's value, by the way. I send Christian Kirk for Evan Engram so easily. Like Christian Kirk is nice. He's fine. He'll be in your lineup. If you start 10 or 11, he'll be in your lineups probably most weeks. Like you won't feel bad about it, but I think like you'd prefer him to be a bit more of a replacement player as opposed to a starter. Like he's probably your wide receiver 4 or 5. So give me my tight end 1.
Yeah.
Like Christian Kirk's production is going to be very easily replaced. Tight end 4 isn't.
Yes. That's essentially what the conversation comes down to is would you rather have the extra depth wide receiver who is very flexible most weeks or your starting tight end? I think if you're making this move, I would rather have Kirk as a backup than Engram as a backup.
I was about to say, if we're talking a league where you can flex another tight end, I think I still do it anyway because that's a good game of keep away. Like you're in a straight PPR, I'm going to assume in a straight PPR, Evan Engram is still flex worthy. In which case, throwing him in I don't even have a league to pull up to see if that's the case. Like I don't have any leagues like that. Though I guess I do have a 0.5 PPR with no premium, which we're going to talk about a little later. But still, like if that's the case, if Engram does feel flex worthy, especially compared to someone of the level of Christian Kirk, I think I do that as a game of keep away. Like if I do have Andrews or Kelsey or Pitts and they're in my tight end spot, I think I flex Engram at the cost of Christian Kirk pretty easily. And that gives me still very flex worthy scoring and plus keeps a top 5-6 tight end away from another team.
So I'm just looking at last year up until Christian Kirk got hurt in week, I think it's like the first snap of week 13. So I did from weeks 1 through 12 last year. Christian Kirk was averaging 13.3 PPR points per game. Evan Engram was averaging 10.5. Now I don't know what that number would be in a premium. I don't know. Like maybe that bumps them up to closer to 12 in a premium. But Christian Kirk was outperforming Evan Engram on a points per game basis in regular PPR leagues by 3 points per game last year.
Yeah, it's a lot. I didn't think it'd be that much.
And then because it was actually after Christian Kirk got hurt is when Evan Engram took off. I think that's when he was averaging like 17 or 18 PPR and over 20 in a premium, you know? And then at that time, just for reference as well, Calvin Ridley was averaging 13.5. So Ridley and Kirk were basically producing similarly. And then Evan Engram was at 10.5.
Wow, that's more than I thought it would be.
So I think,
so maybe I might take back the second part of that where I would do it anyway, just to flex Engram. If it's not premium, if there's any premium, I probably do it. But without a premium, fine. I'll keep Kirk if I already have a better tight end.
But if you don't have, like, if your starting tight end is like Chiga Okonkwo and you had Christian Kirk as your wide receiver 5, you'd just send Kirk for Engram.
Yeah, very easily. Yeah.
Yeah.
Next trade. Evan Engram in a 25-second for Keenan Allen and Zamir White. Ugh. Evan Engram 104, 25 second, 89. Keenan Allen 148, Zamir White 100. So 193.3 to 247.7. Is Zamir White worth a first now?
I don't think he's worth a first.
But you're not going to get him for a second.
I don't think that's enough. I don't think most people who have Zamir White are just like holding on, especially if they're contenders. They're just like, you know what, I got him for like free. Right, yeah, and there's no reason to cash out. But I've seen a good more than handful of leagues that you can sell Zamir White for a first for. I talked about it in the Trade Finder in a video, and then people in the comments were saying they sold Zamir for a first or Zamir for a player that I would then sell for, that I would pay a first for, you know?
Yeah. This is so gross. Like I want to cross out the second in Zamir White because of how I feel about him, at least. And then we're at the exact same conversation we just had. Like this feels like a very similar conversation to last trade. It's one of those things where, again, it comes down to, is there any premium on the tight ends? If there is, I probably take the Engram side because I'll put him in my tight end spot. I'll use that second to go get Joe Mixon, like one of those other running backs, Derrick Henry, whatever. And I would feel better with those running backs than I would with Zamir White anyway. That's just what I would do, So I'm gonna take Engram in the second here, even though I completely understand the other side based on everything we just talked about before. So if there's no premium, give me the other players. If you already have one of those better tight ends, give me the other players. But outside of those specific situations, I'll take Engram in the second because I believe in his scoring. And then there's other running backs I would rather have that are probably not so differently valued than Zamir White, other than Zamir White. That's I don't want him.
I think you wrapped that one up pretty well. There's not often that I just leave it at what you said.
Well, it's also usually I talk far too much that we have no idea what the hell I'm talking about by the time I'm done. So, you need to.
That was perfect.
Okay. Last is George Kittle. Okay. So I'm going to have something to talk about when we're done with George Kittle. Man, George Kittle, you talk about George Kittle because I have feelings, but I want to know yours.
Did you know, fun fact, he was the only tight end last year that had over 1,000 receiving yards?
Which did not feel like it. Because he legitimately had a game where it was one catch for 2 yards and a touchdown, and that was the entire game.
Basically, like it.
And then there was another game where it was 2 catches for 2 touchdowns, and it was like under 10 yards. Like it did not feel like he had a good season last year.
It was his third highest season in terms of receiving yards,
which did not feel like it at all.
Tied for second in touchdowns. So by all accounts, in terms of George Kittle-ness,
he had a good year. Yeah,
it was like one of his best years of his career.
In a 0.75 premium, he was the per game tight end 7. That's better, much better than I thought.
He had 3 games over 100 yards, a few more in the 70 to 90 range. He did have 4 under 20. But I feel like that's just kind of George Kittle, though. Like sometimes he is part of the offense, and then sometimes he's not, because Christian McCaffrey is amazing.
The most obnoxious part about George Kittle is how good he is, and not how just
everybody else is.
Well, no, not even that, because like he's such a good blocker that if he's like at 80%, he'll be in and be an extra lineman, especially with how often their line likes to get hurt. So he has practically decoy games where he doesn't run that many routes, and you're just thrilled if he does catch one of those few things for a touchdown. But like he stays in as a blocker a lot when he's a little, limpy. Man, I'm worried about George Kittle at this point. It's not to the point where I'm out or getting rid of him, but before last season, I was going for George Kittle. Now I'm not. So I'm very curious to see these trades. 12-team Superflex, Cooper Kupp and George Kittle for Isaiah Pacheco and Marvin Mims. Cooper Kupp, 206, George Kittle, 134 for a total of 340. Isaiah Pacheco, 263, Marvin Mims, 59 for a total of 322.4. So that's pretty close analyzer-wise. which means I'm going to take the two players that I'm going to take Cooper Kupp and George Kittle here. And it's not super hard for me. Pacheco's fine. Like, he has that low end 1, high end 2 feel to him, but like at a point where you don't really care, like he's like, it's a chunk that's like a big tier of scoring players where it's just like, I don't think he brings anything special to the table.
Mm-hmm.
Cooper Kupp and George Kittle do. And Marvin Mims is, I still love the idea of Marvin Mims, but who knows what he's going to be. Like, maybe if you have return yardage in your leagues, you're even more hyped about him. But this feels pretty easily Kupp and Kittle to me.
Mims really drags down the Pacheco side. like the disparity. We basically got to 330 points on both sides, more or less. Like, this is very fair.
Yeah, but a 60-point difference between. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a 60-point difference between Pacheco and Kupp, whether that's right or not. But and then the 60-point difference between Kittle and Mims, like just having one player worth so little on one side almost makes you write it off and make it feel like this is Kupp and Kittle for Pacheco. How often do you see two players with K starting in their last name on one side of a trade? Kupp and Kittle. That's
not often. I feel like this is pretty easily the Kupp and Kittle side. I mean, because Kupp has the potential to be, especially as a contender. I don't know how you just don't take that. Even if you don't have any other running backs other than Pacheco, like if you were just riding our like kind of hero RB, but that hero RB strat is like a RB2, on our dynasty rosters. Even if you were to do that, you just go get Kupp and Kittle.
You find something else to do at running back before the season starts. Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely.
It's so easy.
Like, yeah, if this was our championship listener league team, and Pacheco was our only running back and we got this offer, we take it and we'll figure out running back before the season starts pretty easily.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. All right. Let's just go on to the next trade. 12-team Superflex, 2 PPR per tight end reception. Nuts. Whew. By the way, there is a button on the trade analyzer for tight end premium, but that button is only 0.5. So Kittle is going to be lower than he probably should be. Well, lower than he should be. George Kittle and Brian Robinson for 25 first. I should read the full trade before I start talking about all the individual pieces. George Kittle, 180. Brian Robinson, 76 for a total of 256.1. The 25 first by itself is 280.4. It is George Kittle, especially with such the premium. You pay a first for that kind of tight end in that kind of league. Brian Robinson's going to be solid. Austin Eckler's fine at his day and age, but like Brian Robinson, I feel like is going to get more of the work. So he'll probably be a solid low end RB2, which absolutely has a place on your team. And especially this means you're competing. So I'll sell my playoff first for George Kittle and Brian Robinson very easily.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think one thing that's not talked about, it's starting to be talked about because of the possibilities of Ayuk not being on the team, or they were potentially also shopping Debo to then keep Ayuk, like prioritize Ayuk and at Debo's expense. Now Kittle's splits with and without Ayuk over the past 3 years are basically identical. He hasn't played. He's only played 2 games without Brandon Ayuk in the lineup, and he averages around 13. He goes from 13 points per game with Ayuk to 14 points per game without Ayuk, but he goes from 13 points per game with Debo to 22 points per game without Debo.
I was not ready. I mean, like I figured it was going to be more based on how your lead up, but I wasn't ready for that.
No, 7 games played over the past 3 years without Debo Samuel. And his number, he has like he did 9 for 180 and 2, 4 for 93 and 2, 6 for 120 and 2, 9 for 150. And that 9 for 150 was last year, and he did 5 for 78 without Debo last year too.
Imagine a 2-point per reception league, and he gets 9
receptions. Yep. Yeah. So that 9 for 150 would be 33 points in a 2 PPR premium.
And that's with
that 9 for 181 and 2.
But that you win
would be 48 fantasy points.
Wowzers.
Yeah. So pay a first for that upside alone
is worth it.
just for the sense that you get 2 PPR premium for like the normal weeks that he has, the normal dud weeks and the normal spike weeks. But if something were to happen to Debo, you know, I just Kittle's production goes through the roof. That, you know, especially if that's a playoff first and you're getting Brian Robinson attached to it.
Yeah.
This is just such a no-brainer. And honestly, even as a rebuilder, I feel like not as like a full-on teardown rebuild, but if you were like maybe a fringe playoff team where maybe you had like the 105, 106 this year, I'd probably do this in this format and then try to see if I can flip both pieces for more later.
Yeah, like these. Well,
or see if that helps push you towards being a
that's what I was gonna say. Like if I'm border competing and I get this offer in my inbox, I take a look at the rest of my team to see if I have any of those other young prospecty players that I could flip for the Amari Coopers of the and Joe Mixons of the world. Push yourself into competing. And if you can, then yeah, you take this. Like I don't know. I think these two are a little hard to flip for profit. Like it's these two specific players. I love the theory of what you're saying, but these two specific players are like Brian Robinson. Like I feel like even if he does come in and score 18 to 20 points for the first 3 games, it's still going to be tough to get much more than a second for him, just because he's Brian Robinson.
Sure.
And George Kittle is already 30 and blah, 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 blah. Like,
what more can you get on top of him and that you were paying a first already?
Yeah, maybe you end up getting a first for Kittle and a second, which is technically more than you paid, but like it doesn't feel like worth the risk to me. But I love where your head's at, though. We need to give a very quick thank you to everyone who voted in the Outhouse Challenge last week with the Kyler side, because that was our side. And we were terrified that was going to go through. Like the first 2 votes were for the Amon-Ra side, and immediately at like Thursday at like 11 a.m., Addison's messaging me, "Oh no, man, there are 2 for Amon-Ra. What are we going to do?" And I'm like, breathe, give it time, man. But yes, the Kyler side was ours. And sorry, my screen just went black for a second. The Kyler side was ours, and we did not want to lose Kyler and Puka, even though Amon-Ra's nice, very, very nice. But H-Han in a first and AD Mitchell just give us the Kyler and the Puka side. So thank you, everyone, for voting correctly. And on that note, this has been the DLF Trade Show on the DLF YouTube channel. Russ Fisher, Dynasty Outhouse, Addison Hayes, @AmazeHayes_. We'll catch you next time.